Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to TFT, Tarot for Today, Divine Dabblings with
Oberon.
and me, Banshee. And guess what time it is?
It's time for Goth.
Goth Tarot with Banshee
That's
and
right.
Mr. O.
On the first segment of each month, Banshee will guest star with me, and we will actually outline the major shadow work that we will be dealing with in this month ahead.
Are we ready to roll?
Right, and so we use the Cries of the Soul's Oracle to pick that shadow work.
I'll put it down there.
And we'll also be using another deck, the Erethereal Shadow Work Tarot, for some of the other cards that we pull in this reading.
And the Cries of the Soul's Oracle is by Isabel Surf and illustrated by Daphnia Subhone. I can't read it. I'm sorry. It's my bad eyes. Forgive me. Sabine by Daphne Sabine. Yikes. Glasses this month. Maybe.
So let's go to this then. And of course, we thematically call the cards under different names to describe what they're about. So the first one is the Dark Shadows.
Right. You mean the spread, yeah.
Right.
The names of the spread positions. The first spread position is the Dark Shadows, but we're going to let Mr. O shuffle and cut for me, please.
Right.
So we'll blame the shadow on him. See what I did there?
The Dark Shadows is the general key card for the reading.
It's what's haunting you this month.
Exactly. And this is a remarkable book we use, The Cries of the Soul's Oracle. As soon as we started looking at it, we realized it would be really great for this purpose. Alrighty.
And we highly recommend it for your own personal use.
Mm-hmm.
By all means, support the creators. All right. So what is haunting us all in some way this month? It's toxic relationships. It's got an affirmation on there. I'll read it when we go into the book because I'm sure it is there. And it is, number 37. Toxic relationships. Ooh, that's going to be a topic, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it could be any kind of relationship. Problem with this book is the numbers are so small. That's the only problem, that I can't find them. So let's see. Thankfully, it does have a table of contents.
A table of contents.
There it is, page 118. And thank you, creators, for doing that. I know some people who do not do that. All right, toxic relationships. I create positive relationship foundations with myself and other people. Should be an affirmation that we will touch on again later. The wisdom of this card is, and remember, it speaks to you as if it's your shadow toxic relationship speaking to you. Our presence means drama, conflict, unexpected events, and misunderstandings. And our aura is so powerful that we embody an unchangeable truth. Love hurts. And what we love, we accept. And when we love, we accept everything. We exist in all aspects of your life and even in your relationship with yourself. When we are here, each person expects the other to create an enveloping comfort. I'm sorry, I'm having problems reading. I don't have enough light. An enveloping comfort zone and make promises they'll never be able to keep. Will you try to escape your wounds and look for new inner-outer balance? Whenever you do, you end up winding up locking yourself into negative relationship patterns that inevitably damage you. Well, that was tough, and I apologize for my reading.
Do we want to take a moment to turn on that light?
Perhaps it's just not bright
I
enough.
can edit it out, you know, and then turn it to where you might want it. Maybe that's good enough.
Yeah, let's see. I hope it's not going to drown the cards out or anything. How does it look?
No more than normal.
Okay. Let's see how
So you
this
think that
looks.
helps?
It did help much better.
Right.
Yeah. Do I need to read it again?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, you don't need me to.
All right, so let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, let's indeed talk about that a little bit. It talks about drama, conflict, unexpected events, and misunderstandings. You know, and almost as if we want to make love hurt, you know, and you kind of can almost see even global and personal, you know, personal associations with this, as a matter of fact. Because when you think about it, everything being done supposedly because of love of country, etc., you know, is hurting a lot of people. It's hurting a lot of people. Whether you look at the Israeli war, whether you look at Russia and Ukraine, all of this.
Well, at the more individual level, the idea of the toxic relationships relates to one of my favorite themes, which is codependent relationships, possibly gone to extremes or on steroids, as they say. And the idea that maybe people take turns being playing roles, playing the more abusive person in the relationship, being the abused person. Maybe a lot of times that toxicity is one-sided, true abusive relationships, but occasionally we are talking about situations where people play or pull different strings. And that happens even where there is a main abuser. There still may be certain things that are triggering them that the abused doesn't realize it's part of their codependency too.
Well, you know, we're always expecting the other person to take care of us. That's another aspect of this. And what do we add to the relationship, you know? That's when it gets toxic, when somebody else is expected to, hey, you know, put the towels on the rack just right, or whatever the case may be, while the other person, you know, is just pushing you around to do these kinds of things, but not cooperate in any way on their own. So, I mean, I see a lot of interesting facets to this card. Let's take a look at what the Dark Whispers has to offer. So what do we need to know about this? We do look at something again in this booklet, but then we draw a tarot card as well. So we look at the supplement section for this, and it says, what we need to know is, when we are present, you find yourself in familiar, brutal energy, one you know and feel secure with. Your balance depends on the relationship you had or still have with your parents. So you need to make peace with that relationship in order to build balanced foundations for relationships with other people. When we arise, you attempt through other people to bring fresh energy into your relationship with your parents. A relationship that doesn't need to be perfect, just accept it as it is and focus on your needs, because you can't change your past or your parents. It's interesting they bring up the parental connection, isn't it?
I saw that.
And I wonder here, you know, if what we're talking is this acting out, this idea of acting out what you really wanted from your parents, or what your parents did to you, and put expectations they threw on you that you are putting on others in a relationship.
Well, you know, a lot of times they say when people are parenting, they have to be able to make credible limits to what's going on with their child, and that the child instinctually, subconsciously, however you want to put it, may be always testing those limits. And certainly we know during the preteen and teen years, that may be the biggest time of that. But is the font or the beginning of toxic relationships when parents don't necessarily handle these in the right way? Yeah, it looks like I'm blaming the parents for some of that.
It may not even be something they did directly to their child, but affected the child. You know, as you may be in a toxic relationship, one side or the other, the recipient of pain or the giver of pain, so to speak, so are your parents. A lot of parents, were domestic violence survivors, etc., coming from codependent relationships, as Mr. O said, and their children see that. Their children are modeled on what they see from that.
Right, and so it is kind of like the anti-gift that keeps giving, and a lot of times maybe we find ways to console these people or get them into counseling, and finding out, how they can actually better themselves. But not everyone has access to that, and so sometimes it is a generational kind of trauma that keeps going down the line.
I feel as though, toxic relationships could begin, in the home and what people see. But, we can't blame everything on that because not everybody comes out of these situations the same way. However, I think it is an interesting point to come to terms with, what happened in your past and perhaps not reenacting that in your life in the present, especially if you didn't like it when you had to deal with it as a child.
So we are drawing an additional card for this supplement that we just read about, and that is coming from the Erethereal Shadow Work Tarot. So I have shuffled it, and I'm going to let Banshee shuffle it. And this would also include the idea, perhaps, of something else we need to know, a dark whisper, so to speak.
Or how it fits in with this, maybe.
Or how it fits in, right. It supplements it in its own way.
Who's here?
It's such a difficult deck to shuffle.
It's a little big. It's a little tall. I mean, it's okay for the size.
Than I do.
It's okay for the width of my hands, but not the length of my hands.
I do like this deck a lot, though. I think it's got some very good shadow kind of imagery for us to draw upon. Righty. So
the moon reversed.
Ooh, and of course, this was like what happened on our live show recently. Or somebody's question was, what do I need to know? And then the card was like, what do you need to know, or what can you possibly
Well, in this case, because in that case it was, you need to know something, but we can't tell you what. But this is reversed, and so it indicates to me that this reading might be a revelation to you. Maybe you hadn't factored in how your formative years have led to what you are experiencing now.
Well, certainly the American or somewhat Western world's experience is kind of built on a lot of familial, codependent kind of relationships, traditional relationships that overemphasize traditional roles, possibly the beginning of where toxic masculinity arises in a relationship or a family situation. So to me, when I look at the moon reversed, including the idea of what you need to know, is maybe the idea that, this involves those things that are maybe hidden in our earlier life. Maybe it's our family life, or maybe it's in other relationships, or maybe, like the moon, we've suppressed them. There are little incidents that happen where somebody was too drunk and slapped somebody or something like that, and everybody wanted to forget about it. Maybe we need to accept the fact that, we have to accept the past and not suppress the things that we think, shouldn't be known.
Obviously, I think I made that last part very good. I think when we are present, you find yourself in familiar, brutal energy, one you know and feel secure with. That very first line in the supplement here really speaks to the moon's energy. You already know this feeling from your past relationship, and dealing with your parents' relationship with each other, possibly also with you. And, so you're accepting this, either being the brutalizer and when I say brutalizer, I'm not saying that this is necessarily a domestic violent incident. I don't want people turning away and saying, saying, oh, that doesn't apply to me. I mean, there's verbal abuse, there's all kinds of abuse beyond physical abuse. There's unreasonable demands, all the one-sided relationships, all these different things are toxic. They're toxic relationships.
All right. So for the next position, we call that the dark drama, and we only pull a card from the tarot deck, and we're just going to keep running through the deck as is. We shuffle them.
That's right.
So the dark drama is how others or outside events may be inadvertently triggering the toxic relationships or the feelings that evolve from them. And it is the reverse Ten of Swords, which in context...
Well, I think other people are trying to get you to see the light and move on from your past, move on from, causing hurt or harm or toxicity in relationships, to let whatever was in your past that's causing this go. Maybe, for example, your parents now might be trying to make amends with you. I'm just throwing that out there. Or you yourself, vice versa, are trying to come to terms with this. But the thing is, they're talking here about outside influences, assisting you in some way, or triggering this. Well, maybe I need to refresh this. This looks like a healing card to me, though. So what I would say is maybe your parents are blocking your healing. I should go that way instead.
Well, the other thing that this involves to me is maybe the sense too that one might linger on getting even through this card too, because it is a reversal of the forces that you felt were against you. And so this card could be saying that some of these events trigger you into feeling vengeful, or like you have to, make, some sort of rail against this. And that may not necessarily be as healing as you would like.
It's possible, too, if I had to say something more positive about friends and others and how they may be triggering it inadvertently when they're trying to heal you instead. They're maybe trying to tell you, just get over this. The past is the past. Yeah. Quit reenacting what happened to you, blah, blah, like it's so easy. Mm-hmm. And that could be triggering you to be even doing worse things. So that goes back to what I said in the beginning, and I think what I really was trying to get after with the energy of this card. But also, maybe some of us can't totally come to terms with what happened in a personal way because their parents may have passed on, and so it makes it kind of hard. But there are things magically you can do to try to just put that water under the bridge. Maybe we can cover that a little bit later.
All right, then. So that was very interesting. We're going to finally now go to the dark truth. And that is what you must accept.
And that's the soul warning in this deck plus one tarot. Why don't you start shuffling? Or...
No, we don't. We just keep going through the deck.
Oh, that's right. The warning is, we don't have to be your reality in your relationships. You can give us a different role, place, and influence. Every relationship is unique, so don't commit to never again forging toxic relationships. Some people will activate beautiful energies and wonderful inspiration within you, while others will blow on the embers of your worst wounds. When we are present, ask yourself what wound is being reactivated and put a temporary or definitive end to particular relationships. Showing love sometimes means leaving or letting another person go. And that's the point too. I guess what it's saying is here, we can never put these things completely to bed, but don't keep getting yourselves involved in relationships that trigger up the old wounds. Find people that are more supportive and more, that aren't those triggers for you. And if it does happen, it's time to let it go, maybe.
So, to my thinking, this does talk about the idea of codependencies in relationships, because we often find that people who are in those kind of relationships that become toxic, that patternizes them, and they may leave that relationship, but because they haven't really resolved some of those things in themselves, the things that trigger them or the things that trigger them to be in those relationships, it could happen again.
It could happen again. And, that's why some people go through this loop. This reminds me of course, the Tower reversed. We haven't taken in the lessons that we should avoid people that trigger us, right, one way or another.
So, additionally, what is also the dark truth, what we must accept? And it's the Eight of Swords. Whoops, let's show that. Upright. And go ahead. But I think we both have an idea there, right?
What we must accept is how easy it is to fall back into this position, to be a prisoner of our own making.
Yeah.
By continually going back into these relationships that are not healthy for us.
And to some degree, I think that there's an artifice or a facade that we might erect around ourselves. Certain people in their codependency sort of feeling like, this is the way that life is for them, and they accept that.
Well, and let me talk straight about this. I mean, this isn't just for people who are victims, being on the victim side of things. These are the people that are also the perpetrators, because the perpetrators keep singling out people that they know will disappoint them, that they know that they can pick on and reenact this drama again in their lives over and over again of abusing people.
So both victim and victimizer really have some heavy shadow work here. It's not just one or the other, it's both of them. They both have unresolved things from their past, parental interactions that have caused them to be this way.
All right, so the next one is the dark gift. What hidden ability, power, resource, or aspect of self can help you cope with what is haunting you this month? And it's just the tarot.
So once again, just the tarot. Emperor reversed.
Well, I can almost see it on the abuser's side of things, not the victim, but I'll get to that maybe. Okay, there's a message for both here. I think what it's saying is on one hand, people who are always wanting to control another and cause harm need to relinquish that control. Need to stop trying to be that way. Stop trying to be manipulative. Stop trying to force people into doing things your way. Stop trying to make their inability to stop making unreasonable demands just because you'll be able to hold it against them. And on the other hand, stop picking people who are control freaks, and who want to dominate and hurt you to the victims. Stop looking for people who are stronger than you, or you feel, you need this in your life. You have to have this kind of person in your life. You do not.
Recognize your behavior when you're giving in to somebody else's, victimizing mode, or the other way around too. The idea that, you go along with the pre-program, you've been doing that. Try to recognize that behavior and not go into that enabling kind of sort where you make it easier for either the victim or the victimizer to proceed with their plan. So you have to recognize that in yourself.
And on both ends of this, scale, if you really, if you really feel you cannot control what you do, or that you still feel somewhat righteous in what you do, that it's always the other person's fault, whatever, recognize this. Relinquish your know-it-allness, and that you are totally right. And how about seeking help in therapy? How about going ahead and seeking, and recognizing that you don't have all the answers, you are not in control, and that maybe others can help you, find healthy ways to be in control.
In some ways, I think that this is the most deep shadow kind of thing we've done in the several months we've done this now.
Well, there have been a few good ones there. So, I'm sorry I started off kind of weak because I couldn't read the cards, but this is a very interesting reading.
All right.
And so what is the dark destiny finally, right? The dark destiny or dark light marriage. And that's the integration of the shadow and the light. And what is that utilizing, Mr. O?
All right, so we're going to read from the moving forward section of the Cries of the Soul's Oracle, and then we'll pull a final tarot for that, and then we'll come back to that affirmation for toxic relationships.
Well, how do we move forward here? Try to understand what you look for in relationships. Think about ones that encroached on your boundaries and think about your own responsibility in that. Ask yourself what they have to teach you. Do you accept balanced sharing? Dare to show your vulnerability? Or always look to be in control? Listen to your feelings and considerations. Then focus on your inner child and write them a letter of reassurance. Well, I'm all for that. I'm all for writing a letter here to yourself even and saying that, I'm refusing to be my parents. How about that? I'm refusing to be my parents and be my own person. My parents did not raise me to be carbon copies of them. That's not why I'm here. They raised me to be, a conscious being who's going to make their way in the world and make them proud.
I agree with that, and a lot of this sounds disturbingly familiar to perhaps the curse of alcoholism, where one or both parents are alcoholics, and therefore one or more children may in fact become alcoholic themselves, or be very much in the mode of an adult child of an alcoholic, and that of course represents that triggered, kind of toxic relationship you're having with your parent.
I mean, deep down, unless you're really twisted, you might be, or your family, I would say. But, even parents who've neglected you, who maybe have treated you badly, poorly, maybe you've been a victim of domestic abuse. I feel deep down, there's a kernel inside of each and every family that does not want to see their children, turn out bad. Does anybody want to see their child become a mass shooter in school? I mean, I'm not saying there aren't some really twisted parents out there, but I have a feeling, most of us, the vast majority of us, don't want to see that. And so the bottom line here is you don't want to be carbon copies of what you see going on in your household. Whether they cared about you or not, care enough about yourself that you don't want to be like that and you don't want to treat other people like that. And I think here too, we talked to earlier, I forget if it was in the warning section, but let's pull a tarot card and see.
All right, so this is that final tarot card too for the idea of how we integrate, how we pull shadow and light together. And it's the Seven of Wands reversed. And that's not necessarily the note I want to end up in, but let's think about this a minute.
What I think it means is, first off, for victims, it's saying don't accept, being abused. Don't accept somebody constantly trying to put you down, put you in your place, tell you how to live your life, tell you what you must conform to. Be yourself and stand up for yourself. I think, when we look at the Seven of Swords reversed here, there's a sense of weakness again. There's a sense of just allowing yourself to be the victim to other people's things. So telling you that this card is saying here, you need to not be like that anymore. You need to avoid being like that. And for anybody who's on the opposite end of things, let's face it, you don't win friends, influence people, and get people, family, and others to truly love you if you're constantly hurting them. And so, don't be like that. Don't be like that person who is actually the Seven of Wands reversed here.
I agree with that. That's a very good summation there. And I think it's interesting that all of the corroborating cards to the reading are wands, swords, or the major arcana. There's no cups. And that sort of plays to the heart of maybe toxic relationships where it's very hard for people to really
find the love.
Really figure out where the love is at there. So
have to remember why we are in relationships. Wow, that's a great observation, Mr. O. Thank
It
you
just
for
came to
that.
me when you were talking about the wands, so I thank you for that.
Yeah.
The Seven of Wands.
Wow, an interesting reading. So let's take a look at the affirmation. And I want to go back, I think, to the supplement or the warning. I'm going to look for a minute. But it's, I create positive relationship foundations with myself and other people. So what you got to keep in mind. You want things to be positive. You want things to be filled with joy and happiness. Oh, yeah, you're always going to encounter challenges and struggles. But doesn't it help if everybody has a positive attitude with one another? Can't you work out your struggles and your challenges better that way than if you're constantly fighting with one another?
So,
I think so. And so when I look at the supplement here, when we present what I was saying before in the warning, oh God, well, I hope I can find it again. Maybe it was about this different. Don't commit again to forging toxic relationships. Some people will activate beautiful energies and wonderful. So, yes, so I think here we have to go back to this. This is one of the crucial points here. We have to break the circle. And I think here with family and seeing what our parents went through, we have to break the circle. You've got to get out of that toxic relationship you're in, if you are in one now. Or if there's any hope of changing it, and you should know that by now, then you go seek counseling if you are both willing to do so. But you need to break that cycle and move on in most cases. And when you do that, you don't move to the next toxic person. You avoid that. And if you get involved with another one, which is easy to do, you break it off immediately. If you start abusing somebody, you break it off immediately and you never go back. No stalking, no trying to say, I'll be better next time. You know you won't. You break it off and you find somebody who is more your equal, who you're more willing to share your life with equally as equal partners.
you know why I especially liked what you just said here, this whole diatribe, is in the very beginning, you talked a little bit about how some of this might parlay into the global issues, the global aesthetic. And of course, when you start saying about that, this is, of course, totally can translate to that. There's some little parts to plug and play with there, but we really have a world global epidemic of toxic relationships.
People are loving people who hurt them.
Yeah.
Why is this happening?
Yeah.
It's like toxicity on a more global scale. And I'm not just talking about the U.S. here. No. Oh. So, I mean, we could look at all of these cards in light of that, but I like Mr. O steering me away from that because there is a truth that we just, there's so much domestic violence right now. I can't tell you, I am hearing stories almost, if not daily, weekly in our state about an ex-girlfriend getting shot, a murder-suicide, where some lover is taking out the other. Whatever the case may be, this is happening more and more frequently now, too, along with what's going on, in our societies at large with political situations. So good luck working on this, everyone, and keep in mind, we control our own destinies here, and yeah, we can live in fear, and we can constantly just get hit and hurt because what would happen if you leave? I just want to tell you that it's better if you leave because no matter what happens, you've tried your best to move on, and that is what you must do. That is what you must do to break the cycle. Good luck with that, everybody.
Good luck, everybody.
Take care, and
we'll see you next week.
Mr. O will be updating on this every week this month.
We'll update every week.
Should be very interesting.
Should be interesting.
Check out Mr. O's show, and he'll be dealing with other shadow work as well.
We'll be dealing with other stuff, and there'll be other affirmations and meditations. So thanks for watching.
And I'll see you next month when we do this all again.
Alrighty.
Bye-bye.